Hey everyone, welcome to Inspiring Women Revolution. And just a reminder, we support incredible women on this show and also shine a spotlight on the amazing men as well. And we share our stories and we express our journeys, all in the hopes to connect with you. And I'm really excited for my next guest. His name is Dayne Bachmann, and I'm going to read this because it's very specific. Dayne actually is a licensed clinical social worker and gender development therapist for the LGBTQ plus community. His counseling office is called Twin Peaks Counseling, and he is located in Derby, Connecticut. So really, really thrilled to have this beautiful open conversation about human beings and love and support and what people go through and how we all come out on the end. So I'm super excited. Stay tuned for just a sec for Dayne. Dayne, hi, welcome to Inspiring Women Revolution. So happy to have you here and to support not only what I'm doing, but I love being able to support what you're doing. So welcome.
Thank you so much.
As I just explained to everybody what you do, I'd love for you to give an idea a little bit more in detail, because we're at a time right now for sure where the conversation we're about to have is like front burning storyline on the news media and everywhere. So my journey with you today is to find the love and the human aspect of everything that life brings us. I would love for you to share exactly what you do and all the people that you help.
Sure. Let's find the love.
Yes.
So I am a business owner of a small private practice in Connecticut. I have 11 or 12 clinicians with me. I think there's 12 of us in total. We all have different specialties. My specialty is working with the LGBTQ plus community. And as a trans man working with the transgender individuals that I work with, I'm able to help them a lot more than a regular therapist that's not trained in it. So they're getting somebody that's trained in gender and also that has gone through the process that they're going through. So,
amazing.
Yeah. And through my work in therapy, I decided, we're all going through a lot of the same things. My clients, myself, my colleagues that are transgender. So I was like, let me get my story out there. I didn't know what that was going to look like, because now it's my clients were going to see my book. Mm-hmm. So in therapy, I don't reveal anything about myself, really. So I had to think about that pretty hard. It's like, okay, do I really want my clients to know the in-depth of Dayne and right. everything that I went through? And, after a lot of soul searching, I was like, you know what? It could only help, right? And I'm so glad that I wrote the book, because it brought my working with my transgender clients to another level. Mm-hmm. We were able to go so much deeper because now they see me as a real person, right? I mean, not just a therapist sitting across from them.
Yes. Yes. And your book too, it's She, He, Me, right?
He, Me, yes.
She, He, Me. And where can we get that book so I can share that now?
Sure. You could get that on Amazon.
Okay, great.
It's also available in Audible.
Wonderful. Your experience now as, what I feel as a life coach. So as a life coach, we share a lot of things, right? On and off. Typically when I'm speaking with someone, we don't share our personal journeys, but off when it's my time, I get to share my journey, because I believe when we share, we're giving someone, very much like this podcast, we're allowing someone to feel as if, thankfully, they're not alone. And it doesn't matter how many people are going through it, you still feel, through whatever it is you're going through, could be anything, yes, that you're just not alone on this journey. And I feel that the more people talk about it, the more access you have to your own thoughts and who you are as a person.
Absolutely.
And so those of you listening, Dayne and I had the pleasure of having a dinner together and just speaking about just the humans, being a human, what it means to be a human being, and what your journey has been like for you, and maybe not so easy, maybe some pretty painful here and there. Yeah. So when you were going through your thought process, really as a person, just deciding that I need to do something for myself, I need to start this change, I need to talk about it, I need to communicate with somebody who might understand what I'm going through. I mean, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? What time frame were you when this really started to happen? You started to contemplate this?
Sure. So as far back as I can remember, I knew that I felt different. And what that different was, I wasn't quite sure. I just knew that I did not fit in wherever I went. And then, going to grammar school and in kindergarten, I think they tell you, get in the boys' line and the girls' line. And I was like, where do I even fit in? Like, I just didn't. So, kindergarten through 8th grade in a Catholic, on top of it all, Catholic grammar school, it was painful. I was alone. I didn't have the best relationship with my parents, my family. And that's all talked about in the book. So I just felt alone on this deserted island. And, I asked myself a lot, what is wrong with me? I saw other people with their families and what a great relationship they had. And that was foreign to me. And, they knew who they were. And them knowing who they were was foreign to me. Fast forward to high school, I still didn't see anybody that was like me until one day I saw 2 women in the hallway and I was like, they're acting like they're in a relationship. And that was the closest thing to what I felt, 2 women being together. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So I was like, okay, I must be lesbian. And I lived that life from high school up until I was 40. So that's a real long time. Yeah. And I jumped from relationship to relationship because I wasn't happy with me. I didn't even know me. And again, because I was relationship to relationship, I was like, what's wrong with me? These relationships aren't working. So, now the childhood stuff is coming into the relationships. And it wasn't until I met my partner now that I was able to be my true self, my true authentic self. It was amazing. One of the first things I said was, can we go shopping? And they were like, absolutely. I'm like, you don't understand. I want to go shopping in the men's department. And they were like, awesome, let's go. And, that was the first thing to break the ice. And I was reading books along the way and I found Chaz Bono's book. And that was my lifesaver. It was at that point I finally knew that piece of me that was missing, and I was able to put words to who I was. And it made so much sense. And I mean, I read his book a couple times and there were so many things that him and I had in common. And I think I read it a couple times because I couldn't believe I finally knew who and what I was. And, it took off from there. I was able to share parts of the book with my partner and, I was deathly afraid that my partner was going to leave, because I mean, that's like dropping a bomb.
Yeah.
um, and the one thing that they said to me was, you're not hurting anybody, and you have the heart the size of Texas, and I love you, and why do we need labels?
Yeah.
Why?
Yes, and I know we talked about that too, is especially right now, I feel like everything is just such a line drawn everywhere, and again, a part of the reason I wanted to start doing what I was doing was because I felt like, gosh, and maybe it is more of a social media thing that's created that, because I do feel like there are such incredible people in this world. But social media is it has such a leading aspect to everything that we do on a daily basis. And I really wanted to bring this. We need to start erasing those a little bit again, and remember that human beings are human beings. And you always see us come out in our best when there's a war, something tragic happens, or really, those are kind of the two biggest things. It's tragedy and war, and then we become the most amazing humans we possibly can. And it doesn't matter who you are, what race you are, what choices we make personally when it comes to a partner, those are all erased.
Yeah.
And what I really love talking with you about, and you sharing your beautiful story, is I have a beautiful story too, and it doesn't matter what our choice was, that now we've connected and we've made a connection, and we share these beautiful conversations together, and we have these big hearts, and we want to give more. And that's the lines that I'd like to blur when it comes to the label.
Yes, for sure.
Right. And really and it's very much going back to the 60s and the 70s when it started to come out. Gay and lesbians were coming out. We're going through the same thing again. Yeah. When we really should. Don't you all remember the hardship that we went through the last time? This shouldn't be any different. We are people and we're human. And I love that you shared the difficulty of your story. And I really do encourage people to please get your book, and I'll make sure it's in the notes too. And we'll share all that information for sure, because again, it shouldn't matter if you're in transition or not. It's just understanding someone else, taking the time to understand someone else.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest issue.
Yeah, for sure. And you just mentioned like the 60s and 70s, right? I grew up in a household where my father was so prejudiced, and so carrying that with me, and I'm like, oh man,
right?
Because I heard all these derogatory things growing up,
and you do, and that's when we have the conversation about allowing all those old thoughts, all those former thoughts. I wrote a very short blog about it too, as well as how we beat ourselves up. We beat ourselves up at an age now, for instance. I'm sure there's still things in your head that you still go, oh, could be about your father, could be this, but there's sentences that stay in our thoughts, right? And we don't even realize that we're beating ourselves up over what somebody else said about us. But I think we're in a day, Dayne, don't you think, where now the talking about it and sharing it should now be exciting, not hard and sad.
Yes.
So when you share with your clients, when you're working through these, whatever it might be in these transitions. So for someone listening, what do I do? How do I say, and also not to be defensive, but to go about your transition in a very respectful and almost graceful way. Right. For yourself. For yourself, for your heart, Yeah.
So there's a few ways that I want to answer this. So working with my clients, and some of them are really young. So I'm working with parents as well. A whole nother level. So, the child knows who they are. The parent is fighting with them that they do not know. So it's, I try and tell them, maybe they're not. I believe that they are, but let's go with maybe they're not. Meet them where they're at right now. You know, use the pronouns that they want you to use. I mean, what harm is that going to do? So it's a lot of these kids, and I could identify with what I'm going to say right now. You know, these kids are suicidal. The parents don't look at it as, if I don't listen, I could lose my child. And I was suicidal for a long time. Thank God I didn't, because I wouldn't be able to share my gift to the people that I share it with. So I'm very grateful that I didn't act on those feelings.
Absolutely. I'm grateful too that you're still here. And I think that's the hardest thing for parents. And I was, that was going to be one of my questions for you is, I know parents until a child is 18, right? Would you suggest to a parent, especially if a child at 15, 16, 17 wants to transition physically, what would you share with a parent, if that's okay to ask?
Sure. So I'm just going to go back a little bit younger. So before a child goes through puberty, they could, their parents, if they're willing, they could take the kid to the doctor, an endocrinologist, preferably, and their child, before they start puberty, could go on a hormone suppressant. So that right there could save that child so much pain in the future. So that suppressant is going to stop the puberty right where it is, until the kid, the parents are all on the same page, and they want to start the transition. So say I was, I don't know, 11, and I knew that I wanted to transition. I would go on this hormone suppressant. The puberty stops right where it's at. I could figure things out. And then when I come off the suppressant, the hormone suppressant, if I wasn't going to transition, if I decided, you know what, it's not for me, I'm not going to medically transition, my puberty would pick up right where it was going to be. And it would just take off at that point. If I was on the hormone suppressant and I knew that, yes, this is my journey and I'm going to follow it no matter what, when I got off the suppressant, I would automatically go into taking testosterone. So now I didn't develop breasts, just say. So that's a surgery that's not going to be needed later down the road. And, it's a lot of talking to the parents about that. They don't see it that depth. Granted, I totally get that they're going through a grieving process, and their children, so they don't understand. But we have to give parents that grace as well, because they're grieving. It's a loss. Mm-hmm. It's not what they thought. So it's difficult. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
No, I wanted to wait till you were finished. But I think that's a wonderful family decision, because at least it gives, and you're right, it gives the parents the opportunity to process, and the child at that young of an age, because even I don't understand. Well, I understand it now, having a conversation with you. But before that, understanding from a child's point of view, and anybody that's gay or lesbian, that my friends have always said, when I was young, I knew it when I was 5, when I was 8, it was the first time. And there isn't anyone I've talked to that hasn't felt that way. To help parents, and this is good for parents right now who are listening, who, would go, I'm not grasping it, is to find that therapist or someone, or even if you do Zooms, I don't know if you do Zooms, so you can do them all around the world, right? To get a better understanding of how you can transition your emotions with your child. And I think that's what I would really feel for parents and the support of your child. So that way you go, okay, so when you're 18 and 19 years old and you're not, maybe you have parents that are like, under this house, I'm sure under my rules, you're not going to be able to do it. But when you leave here, then we'll talk about, because there's still people we're still got one leg in when our parents grew up in this generation, and one leg trying to go, that's me. Well, I don't have so much one leg in the old ways, but, but a lot of people do, they're still stuck in, this is not right. This is not right. Does not compute, but just giving families a better way to understand and not have to just go, why do we have to run to surgery? And why do we have to do this? And it gives parents these heart palpitations, and just, let's just all breathe and just take it one step at a time. Read, understand, listen to podcasts, and you have to transition your thoughts to a loving place is what I really feel like.
Yeah, for sure.
And not a defensive place of, my child is this or my child is that. And I really do believe that. So I'm so much about family and communication with my own child. We talk all the time. I talk about if she has transgender in her school and how she feels about it and what she could do to be a better person and a friend, to be like, and to understand, well, she'll say, Mom, sometimes I make a mistake and I accidentally say the wrong, pronoun or whatever, who they are. And I said, well, that's okay. I said, because you need time.
Right.
So don't get too upset at yourself. Allow yourself, and even say, I'm just going to throw out a name, making up names, but like, Charlie, I'm so sorry. I'm learning too, or something simple that makes it not uncomfortable for everybody. So that way everyone goes, okay, we're okay. We're all okay. We're going to be okay.
And with what you just said, I'm trans. I work with the population every day. And I make mistakes.
Yes.
I'm human.
Yes.
And all I could do is apologize to the person sitting in front of me and keep it moving.
Yeah.
It happens. Yeah. And you know what? It's probably going to happen again.
Absolutely. And that is, we will make those mistakes but really, I always feel like too, when you're always coming from a caring, loving place, it's not going to come across as offensive.
Right. And you could tell the difference.
Right. You can tell when someone's, out to hurt and not, and that's the defining line. I often wonder if we've learned our lessons at all in history, right? As we keep circling backwards and forgetting that we're so much better than how we behave a lot of the times.
Yes.
I think these honest conversations really help because, again, someone might get mad at me for having this conversation going, Ari, you don't know what you're talking about. But I just merely want to be part of the understanding a community that it doesn't matter who we are. We're together and we should be doing great things in the world. And that's what I feel like you're doing, Dayne, too.
Thank you. Yeah, we all should be doing it.
Yeah. And you help an incredible amount of people. And I think that this is it's a time in everyone's life where I really suggest if you have a family out there or you want to connect with Dayne, this is a great time to do it because there's no time like the present.
Absolutely.
It's okay not to know. It's okay not to understand. I used to be so afraid to ask questions. Why not ask? So that I can better help.
And, and I believe in our conversation over dinner, I was like, please ask me anything because, you want to learn and you're coming from a genuine place. And if I could help you, that's a win because you're going to turn around and you're going to help somebody else that may be struggling. You may be the first person somebody tells that they're trans.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be one of my daughter's friends. It could be, and that's where I go, I like to be the house that my daughter wants to bring her friends to. Like now that the pandemic is mellowed out, I want to be that open space for her friends, for that, because it's not easy to always talk to your parents. And I think I had friends growing up whose parents I absolutely loved that I wouldn't say anything to my parents about, but I would go to them and then we could have a conversation. And then that adult would talk to my parents. And it's a different conversation than if I went to them, not really understanding what I was trying to say. I do have to ask one of the pressing questions that I know has been a big deal. But when it comes to sports and the transgender sports, what is your feeling on male-bodied transgenders in female sports and vice versa?
We're people. We should be able to play the sport that, as the person that we identify with. I think, and I could be wrong, but I think that, say a male that transitions and now is a transgender woman, they're on female hormones, and so their body changes as well. So they're losing a lot of their muscle that they had as a strong man. It's different now. And I don't think people see it from that perspective. But I think we should be able to play in any sport with who we identify with. I mean,
yeah, it's an interesting scientific subject right now. I think that is, weighing heavy on a lot of probably the female, because of we've been fighting for women's rights for so long.
yeah.
And so the transition is also, I can see the uncomfortableness. I can see that, physically still, there is still some attributes that females don't have, bigger shoulders, broader things that make it a little easier. So it is going to be one of those conversations that are going to need to be continued on that aspect of things
For a long time.
Yeah, because I can hear both sides of the story. I understand both sides of the story, and it is, in all fairness, something that, again, we need to figure out how to work on this, because it's here, and this is life. This is our life. And like anything in history, we've got to find a way to make it work and to, braid it together so that there is everyone has the voice, and it does get balanced in figuring that out. So, but it's ongoing. Let's just say that it'll be an ongoing conversation to keep going. So,
I mean, I think another ongoing conversation would be, the restrooms, right?
Yeah. And there's those are another one. And what would a solution be? What do you think a good solution would be, Dayne? I mean, since we're talking about it.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah,
I know that it's terrifying for the transgender person to go into a restroom. I could tell you that. Every time I go into a restroom, I'm fearful, because what if I'm clocked? What's going to happen?
That's a terrible way to feel, to go use the restroom.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, because you hear it the other side too. Or if you have a daughter, if it's vice versa, if your daughter's going to the restroom, and then the opposite, male bodied or it could be in transition, is going into the bathroom, and you hear that side of the story. So it's the fear base that I think, again, when we go into our mindset, that yes, unfortunately, there are some not so wonderful people out there. All right. There's some bad eggs, bad actors. But I think on the grand scheme of things, there are much more better people in this world than there aren't. But the fact that you say that you still have fears of going to the restroom,
yeah,
that's awful. And that makes my heart really sad. And so, would it, and you don't want to label it so it's, men, women, and transgender.
Right. Right.
Is it families and open, or I don't know. I'm literally just throwing words out right now. I really don't know. Like,
well,
the
Target
family
has a family bathroom, right?
Yes. So you go into the family bathroom if you're 12, and you go into the adult, you don't have to name it adult. That's not the word I'm expecting to use, but so that everyone feels safe. That is the huge issue here. So Dayne, our job here is to unblur the lines and
Yes.
make everyone feel safe. So we should definitely do another podcast and YouTube episode, because I think that what would really be great, if you, as you're listening and watching, is to come. I would love to hear your suggestions and ideas, and Dayne and I can get back together and come back on and list some of these solutions, maybe some of these questions, because this should be an ongoing conversation, not just this one time, obviously, with us especially. Will we be right? Will we be wrong? Who knows? We're really not here to offend anybody. And this is what I feel like we're missing right now in the world, is we're so busy drawing lines that we're not helping anyone, especially with that just, again, is going to sit with me for a while, is not being able to use the restroom without fear of something happening. And so that's something where we go, who's got some great ideas? I'd love to hear it. I really, really would.
Yeah.
And how do we start sharing that with people, going, hey, that's a really great idea. That is a really beautiful solution. And so I love this, Dayne. I think that this is a great start. You and I will powwow some more. And again, please write in some questions to us. You can email Dayne, and you're twinpeaks.com, right?
Yes.
Your website.
Twinpeaks.com. Yes.
Twinpeaks.com. TwinPeaksCounseling.com. Again, this will be all in the notes if you want to reach out to Dayne specifically. And then, if you have ideas, please shout them out. Dayne, thank you so much for sharing. And don't forget and your book.
Don't forget to buy the book.
Buy the book, She, He, Me. I am going to read the book and as well. So I too can continuously be better informed on how to help blur those lines a little bit. So. Dayne, anything else for our listeners that I missed that you might want to share?
I think what we talked about is good for today. And I would definitely, love to do another talk with you, if people have suggestions. Absolutely.
Yeah. Because there's going to be some hard questions, I'm sure. And even people who aren't transitioning and just want to know, I think that's the harder one. Yes. I'm sure there's well, when do you know? What do you say to someone? How do you adjust? I mean, I'm sure there's tons of things.
Oh, yeah.
But I really wanted just for people to hear your journey and what you do and how you help people, because this is the start of, something bigger and bringing humanity and communities together. So
definitely.
Thanks, Dayne.
Thank you so much, Ari.
Okay. So in the next few weeks, Dayne will be back. All right, Absolutely. Everybody, thank you so much for watching and listening to Inspiring Women Revolution. Please rate and review this. If you are on YouTube, just give me a thumbs up. Remember, I don't like thumbs down, so just a thumbs up. And rate and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So thank you so much, everybody. Bye.